most two important features of the instruction set architecture. One is addressing modes and the second one is the instruction set. Then third feature which is defined under the instruction set architecture is instructions timing diagram. So, from instruction timing diagram we will be able to know what is the execution time of an instruction, right? Because from the addressing modes we understood how to specify the different types of operands. At any point of time there can be one out of three operands. One is the operand can be the immediate 8-bit or 16-bit data, and second is it can be 8-bit or 16-bit register or it a memory location address. Is there any other type of operand excluding these three? At a time you can get an 8-bit or 16-bit data or 8-bit 16-bit memory location address, or we can have a register as operand. Remember that only three types of operands are present in any instruction, and the way we specify these operands in the instructions along with their opcodes, we call it is the addressing modes. Is it okay? Then second we saw the instruction set, which are further divided into 5 different groups: arithmetic group, logical group, data transfer group, machine control group, etc. So, this will see the entire categories of or different types of instructions supported by a microprocessor. For example, multiplication is not allowed, but in mathematics multiplication is an operation allowed in mathematics, but microprocessor does not allow this arithmetic operation. Which microprocessor? 8085, and we shall see that 8086 allows both multiplication as well as the division. See, in mathematics the floating point arithmetic are allowed, but microprocessor 8085 does not allow floating point arithmetic, it only allows the integer arithmetic. So, that is how the operations which are defined in mathematics are different from the operations which are available in microprocessor, and which microprocessor supports what type of operation, that must be also taken into account. That is our major goal. It is not that you read 8085 and appear the exam, get a grade. That is not a goal. You should be able to identify the efficiency and the effectiveness of a particular microprocessor. Efficiency means how fast a microprocessor can execute an instruction. Not only clock frequency, but also the architectural components which are used to make a microprocessor are responsible for improving the efficiency of a microprocessor system. Right? What is effectiveness? How well you can write the program, and whenever you get the result, you should be ensured that your results are correct. That is what we mean the effective. So, to know the effectiveness and efficiency of a microprocessor, we have to know a number of technical details. What are the technical details? That the third feature says the instruction timing diagram, that how much time an instruction takes to execute or to identify what is the time taken to execute an instruction, and that we can know by instruction timing diagram. Or you can say instruction timing diagram is a pattern or it is a tool to make you understand exactly how much time a microprocessor instruction takes for execution. Okay. So, instruction timing diagram is will serve as a tool. Okay. Or if you write the instruction timing diagram of an instruction, anybody sees the instruction timing diagram, he can easily be grasped what should be the total execution time of an instruction, and that is the purpose of developing an instruction timing diagram, right. So, it will serve as a tool, it will able to depict the execution behavior of an instruction. But if I say the execution behavior of an instruction, what is the execution behavior of an instruction? Whenever you try to execute an instruction, what you do? First you have to access the opcode which is present in the location. That is the first and foremost task, right. Secondly, what you do? You read, you send the control signal, memory read signal to the location where the opcode lies, where the opcode is present. Then what you do? the opcode which is present in the instruction, which is already identified by the previous steps, will be loaded into the microprocessor or will be transferred to the microprocessor by which bus? Data bus. So, in the instruction timing diagram, you have to clearly specify what should be the content of address bus, what should be the content of data bus, and what should be the content of control bus at every clock period, because there is no further, as I told you, there is no further division of the clock period. But in every clock period, which may be 0.2 microsecond, you have to track what happens, and that should be depicted in the instruction timing diagram, right. That means the memory operation, IO operation and the microprocessor operation all are reflected in the instruction timing diagram. And the bus status, address bus status, data bus status and control bus status can be obtained from the instruction timing diagram. Am I clear? So, this is to develop the instruction timing diagram, we should take three timings. One is instruction cycle, then second one is fetch cycle, and third one is execute cycle. So, there are three sub units you can take, or the if you add all these three, or say if you add the fetch cycle and execute cycle, you will get the instruction cycle, or I can write like this: instruction cycle is equal to fetch cycle plus execution cycle, IC equal to FC plus EC. And why the fetch is necessary? Fetching means we are taking the opcode from the memory to the microprocessor, and the time duration, how much time it requires, that is called fetch cycle. And what is execution time? After bringing those opcode, assume that operands are available, then how much time it takes for execution, that is what we call the execution cycle. And whenever you add the fetch cycle time and execution cycle time, you will get the instruction cycle time. So, the definitions are given in the book or internet, you can find out what is IC, what is FC and what is EC. But in its shortest form I can say instruction cycle refers to the total time required to execute an instruction completely, that is the definition. And fetch cycle is the time required to fetch the opcode from memory, and which is always fixed, it cannot be changed, because that is specification given by the designers. Then the execution cycle, that is time required to execute an instruction, and which is a variable. Remember, this is fixed, this you cannot change, but this is variable. And why it is variable? Because it will vary from instruction to instruction. So, we can show the fetch cycle with the help of a number of clock periods. Is it okay? So, if I say that fetch cycle consists of few clock periods, and most often you will see in 8085 the first byte of the opcode will take 4 clock cycles usually, but not always true. But in more than 90% of instructions, you will see that the first byte of the opcode will take 4 clock cycles exactly, and which is fixed, right. And this will take for every byte of the operand, that execution cycle will be around 3 clock cycles, but this is obeyed by 90% of them, or 90% that is also approximate, right. But most of the instruction will follow this pattern, but there are few instructions where the opcode also will take 5 cycles or 6 cycles. That part only you have to remember, otherwise most of the common instructions will follow this pattern, that first byte opcode will take 4 clock cycles, and remaining every byte will be taking 3 clock cycles each. Okay. Then in the machines, there is also another term we use for instruction timing diagram, we call machine cycle. So, this is called machine cycle. So, if you perform any one operation out of these 4 operations, and whatever the time is taken, that is called the machine cycle, right. So, one is opcode phase, already I have told you, for every instruction there is an opcode, and if you fetch an opcode it will take some time, so that will also machine cycle. And access the memory for two operations, memory read or memory write. It is not and, memory either you, if you do memory read operation, that can be a machine cycle, or if you write something into the memory, that is also a machine cycle, right. Memory read or memory write. Then IO read, IO write. IO read means exactly, it means input read, we are reading a data from input device, and IO write means we are writing data to the output device, right. So, if you do perform any one out of this operation, we call it as a machine cycle. Now, let us draw the timing diagram of a most commonly used instruction. So, timing diagram of so, let us take a simple instruction, that is move immediate r comma data, is okay. So, example, in the place of r I can write any register, is it okay, and in the place of data I can write any 8-bit data. Suppose if you write move immediate c comma FEH, so what is the meaning of this? FE will be loaded into the register C, you know it, that is the meaning of the instruction. But that happens during execution. But whenever you observe this instruction, it is a 2-byte instruction. What is the code for move immediate C? If you see the manual, you can find out the 8-bit code. So, assume that it is XX. So, 1 byte opcode is XX, and the next byte will be FE. Is it okay? And assume that it is stored in a memory location, let us take 2050 and 2051. But initially this 2050 is containing XX, which will be retrieved from memory first. So, to retrieve this XX, which is stored at memory location 2050, your PC, that is PC 0 to PC 15 should contain 2050, or in other words, PC 0 to PC 7 will contain 50, and PC 8 to PC 15 will contain 20. Am I clear? The lower order of PC register, program counter register, should be loaded with 50, and PC 0 to PC 15 will be loaded with 20. Okay? And this clock signal, there are number of clock periods. So, this is 1 clock period, this is the 2 clock period, this is 3rd clock period, this is the 4th clock period, and we can show by T1, T2, T3, T4, and this I can show T5, this you can see T6, and the remaining is T7, 7 T states or 7 clock periods. So, now this assume that the PC 0 to PC 7 is containing 50, and PC 0 to PC 15 is containing 20, and this PC contents, that is PC 0 to PC 15 will be loaded into A0 to A15, but AD0 to AD7 and A8 to A15, because the lower order data, that is AD0 to AD7 is multiplexing both address and data. Is it okay? So, that means this A0 to A15 must be loaded with PC0 to PC15. So, you can see in the timing diagram, A8 to A15 we have divided in 2 sections, but in reality it consists of 16 bits. And if you start from this AD0 to AD7, that is 8 bits, and A8 to A15 another 8 bits, total 16 bits. Is it okay? So, now AD0 to A15 will occupy, this will occupy PCH. PCH means you will understand program counter higher order byte, and this will contain PCL, that is program counter lower order byte. Is it clear? So, PCH will be made available from A8 to A15 and PCL will be made available from AD0 to AD7. The meaning is that now AD0 to A15 completely holds the address 2050. At what time? At during the first machine cycle. So, this is the machine cycle 1, this is the machine cycle 2. As I told you, every machine cycle consists of number of clock cycles. Is it clear? So, during first machine cycle, as you see from this, the PCH and PCL is already has transferred the data or address to AD0 to A15 during the first 4 clock periods, right. Now, this will not take total 4 clock periods, this will take 3 clock periods, 3 or maximum it will be between 1 and 3, okay. Minimum is 1, maximum is 3. So, within 3 clock periods the address bus, that is A0 to A15 will be available with the PC0 to PC15, right. And the last 2 clock periods, here you will see that the opcode, what is the opcode? Here opcode is XX. XX will be made available from AD0 to AD7. Therefore, this A8 to A15 will not be affected. So, rather here you can show it varies from instruction to instruction, but usually it takes maximum 2 clock periods. Or once to make it more clear, again I am telling, initially that AD0 to A15 will be holding the 16-bit address for, assume that for first 2 clock periods. Is it okay? That means now we could get the memory location where the opcode is available. And to make that opcode available in the data bus, we can show in the same machine cycle during clock period T3 and T4. Is it okay? That means within one machine cycle we have retrieved the first opcode, that is XX, and is already available from A0 to A7 or AD0 to AD7. And here the question comes, when the AD0 to AD7 is carrying address and when it is carrying data, how to distinguish? Because during the same machine cycle, for few clock periods it holds address and for few clock periods it holds data. How to distinguish? So, there is another signal, as I told you, ALE. ALE stands for address latch enable. So, you can see it is high for only 1 clock period or maximum 2 clock periods or 1.5 clock periods. That exactly you have to see, because in different books different patterns are given, but you can assume that 1 or 1.5 clock period is enough to enable the entire A0 to A15 as the address bus. There is no question of data. Is it okay? So, whenever this AL is high, high means this side. That is why I have put, again it goes low after 1 clock period. After 1 clock period it again goes low. Why it goes low? Because the moment AL is low, the address is latched, stored in a latch temporarily, and the same bus is now free to hold data, and that happens during the same machine cycle. That you have to understand. That same 8 bits is serving as address as well as the data during the same machine cycle, whereas A8 to A15 is exclusively holding the address throughout the fetching of the entire 2 bytes of opcode. Is it okay? So, A8 to A15 for both the machine cycle, as you see, it will be address only. It will never hold the data, because this part is not multiplexed. Multiplexing comes from AD0 to AD7. Therefore, for 1 clock period it holds the address referring to the memory location along with the A8 to A15, because unless you get 16 bits you cannot identify the location, and in the next 3 clock periods it will be holding the data. Data means what data? XX, that will be made available in the data bus. Is it okay? Now come to the second machine cycle. In the second machine cycle, you can see in the first clock period, ALE again goes high, isn't it? Because we need the entire 16 bit address. So again now the same address the AD0 to AD7 which was data previously, now it has become address bus. It will hold again which value 51 because 20 will not be changed. 20 is in the higher order byte and that will remain from A8 to A15. Now AD0 to AD7 is changing to 51, 2051. Now we are referring to the next byte of that instruction. What is the next byte of that instruction? That is AP. I have given example, or you can take any 8 bit data. You can take any 8 bit data and you can refer to that location. And once the ALE goes high, it is holding the address and referring to that location, because this time we got 2051. Is it clear? Now the next 2 clock periods it will be holding FE, because now the address bus has changed to data bus because ALE has already gone low. For 1 clock period it becomes address to identify the location, remember, and subsequent clock periods this will be used for data bus, and the data will be loaded into the data bus, and via data bus it will be going to when it is executed it will be available in C, register C. Is it okay? So usually for the first byte it takes 4 clock periods, as I have told you, most of the instructions. If it is a 2 byte instruction, how many clock periods will be required? 7. First one is 4 and second byte will take 3. So if it is a 3 byte instruction, how many clock periods will be occupied? 4 plus 3 plus 3, that is 10. For first byte always it will take 4, but this is obeyed by only 90% of the instructions. There are some exclusive instructions in the first byte itself will take 6 clock periods, or sometimes 10 clock periods also. There are some instructions which will take for the first byte will take 10 clock periods, because these clock periods are designed later after the design is over. Once the microprocessor is designed, they see after number of experiments, they see that okay, this instructions first byte fetching takes this much of clock periods. So the first the microprocessor is designed, then the clock cycle is found by experimental study. It is not that a clock is decided first and microprocessor is manufactured second. Microprocessor is designed first, then based upon a number of programs, benchmark programs execution, they find okay, this is the clock period we should assume, or this many number of clock periods are required for these instructions. Therefore 90% of the instructions follow this rule. For the first byte will take 4 and subsequent bytes will take 3 like that, and we have maximum 3 byte instruction, not more than that. In 8085 we have minimum 1 byte and maximum 3 byte. So for 1 byte how much? So anyway, so for first byte it will take 4 and subsequent byte will take 3 clock periods. Is it clear? So then remaining 2 signals are there. One is read bar signal, another is IO/M bar signal. Read bar signal, why it is low? Initially it is high, and whenever the memory read operation is to be carried out, read signal should go low. You can see it is just after the second clock period it goes low, indicating that a memory operation is to be carried out, a memory read operation is to be carried out, right. So it is a control signal. Whenever it is high it has no meaning, and whenever it is 0 it is active. So active low signal. Similarly in the second machine cycle you can see after the first clock period of the second machine cycle it goes low, and at that period of time IO/M bar will be low during memory operation. Sorry, throughout the machine cycle M1 and M2 this will be low, not from here, rather you can choose from here, because it is a memory operation, not IO operation. If it is an IO operation, then it must be high. So it is a single signal IO/M bar. So M bar is the active low. Whenever low it is active. So throughout both the machine cycles it will be low. Is it okay? So this is called the timing diagram for executing the instruction move immediate CFH. Similarly, can you draw the timing diagram for LXI H2050H? So this is an assignment. So LXI H, 2050H, and which is a 3 byte instruction, and you can draw the timing diagram for this. So, similarly other type of instructions, for example, you can find out the timing diagram for LDA 2050H. Only thing that you have to understand what is the timing diagram for 1 byte instruction and what is the timing diagram for 2 byte instruction and what is the timing diagram for 3 byte. Okay, because maximum number of formats are only 3, 1 byte, 2 byte and 3 bytes. Is it okay? So, in general this will take 4 clock periods, this will take 7 clock periods and this will take 10 clock periods. Isn't it? For 3 byte instruction it will take 10 clock periods, and if you know the clock period time, you can easily find out what is the instruction execution time. It is very simple. For example, if you are using a 5 megahertz 8085 microprocessor, so its clock period is 2.2 microsecond. So, 10 into 0.2, that is 5 microsecond. This is how we have to find out the total execution time of an instruction. So, anyway, so the next important topic is stack. So, okay. So, as I told you, the definition of stack is somewhat different from the definition whatever you use in data structure and algorithm. Okay. So, what is the definition of stack? A group of memory locations used to store value of registers, memory locations and operands. So, we shall use a stack to store various contents of memory locations and registers and operands, and it follows same LIFO structure, that is last in first out structure, and there are 2 instructions associated with this, but in data structure I think there are 4 operations associated, isn't it? But here it is only 2 operations, that is push and pop operations. The instruction which is mostly used for stack is LXI-SP, a 16-bit address. 16-bit address means you will understand memory location address. A 16-bit memory location address we want to load on the register stack pointer. Is it okay? Then if you write push RP, whenever you write push RP, RP must be having some value. The register pair must be having this RP register pair content. In the place of RP, we can write push B, B means BC, right? Or you can write push D, right? Or you can write push H. I think these are the only 3 pairs of 3 different pairs of registers. Okay. So, if you mention push B, D, H in the place of RP, RP is just a convention. In the place we can write B, C, D, H, L. Suppose if you write push RP, then how the stack stores the contents of RP into the stack, and the moment you load something into the stack pointer, that becomes the top of the stack. Is it okay? That becomes the top of the stack. Now, you have to decrement the stack pointer by 1. You have to decrement the stack pointer by 1 to accommodate the value of lower order bytes. That is, copies lower order byte means C. If I write push BC, C is the lower order byte and B is the higher order byte. It will copy the lower order byte into the stack. Then again you further decrement stack pointer, so that we can find another space to store the higher order byte, then store the higher order byte. So, push is basically an insertion operation. Whenever you want to push something, first you have to reserve the space. For that the stack pointer must be decremented by 1. Is it okay? So, this is the push RP and the push operations. Similarly, there are also pop operations. So, pop is the reverse of this. So, we can demonstrate how push and pop operations are there. So, assume that so suppose this is your stack, right, and particularly for Intel series of microprocessors, the starting address is at the top and the final address is at the bottom, or in other words stack grows downward in the increasing order of addresses. Is it okay? So, we start from top and we end at the bottom. Now, 7000 LXI SP 8004H. What is the meaning of this? The stack pointer will be loaded with value 8004. Is it okay? Now, push D. Actually, E we need not write, only if you write D it is sufficient, push D. So, E contents will be pushed into where? Whatever the value is available in E will be pushed into 8004, is not it? Then stack pointer will be decremented by 1 and then D content will be pushed into 8003, clear? Then pop D means this time the D content will be popped first, right? Or the stack pointer will be incremented by 1 and D content will be popped out, and then stack pointer will be incremented by 1 and E content will be popped out. Is it okay? So, push and pop operations. Likewise, this okay, it is not a halt, it is HLD. So, what will be the content of D? What is the content of D after executing this program? So, because of push D operation, we stored 77 and 23, right, and because of pop operation we got 2377. So, D will be containing 23 because D will be popped first and E will be containing 77. Is it okay? So, this is how the push and pop operations are carried out. Then what is the relation between stack and subroutine? Next class we shall see how the subroutine is related to stack and what are the different types of subroutines supported by microprocessor 8085.